Okay, good morning, gamers, and we're here back on Void Breakers, where we're gonna do another random talk. Plus, I love this game. It's a first-person shooter, roguelike, right? So, if you're wondering what was my last random talk, it was about the anime community. So, I would say go check that out. But this time, we're gonna talk about the gambling, I guess, pandemic or a epidemic or whatever you want to call it, because of the fact that a lot of video games are kind of in this aspect of where um they have a lot of gambling related aspects. I like to say gambling because I think it's easier to say that than to say just RNG. RNG is like random numbers game. Um, but where did this kind of all start from? I think Call of Duty kind of popularized this issue more so than like CS did or any other game you can really think of, because of the fact that loot crates was a big thing for Call of Duty for a while. Now, Call of Duty was also rated to be a M4 mature rated game, so most of the people who bought Call of Duty are not going to be your your 12-year-olds or your 16-year-olds even. They're gonna be your 18 and up, 21 plus year olds who by that time in their life they probably do have a job, right? Now, Call of Duty since Modern Warfare 2019 has stopped the loot crates, and there was a reason why they kind of stopped the loot crates. They were being heavily criticized for having loot crates, and how adults and parents was talking about how it can get people addicted to gambling, and it can become a whole big issue on itself on the development of young people, and where are they going to end up in society? Are they just going to end up in the casino? Call of Duty being a gateway drug to gambling. But the reality is, like, RNG, right? What is this? Damage increase closer to the target. I'll take that. Gambling has always existed and has always been criticized, right? But entertainment is more widely spread than, a casino. I think obviously it's easier to have a 12-year-old playing a Call of Duty game than it is to have a 12-year-old ending up in, like, I don't know, Hard Rock Casino. I think we all know why. So adults are very much obviously concerned about how the youth develops, and when you talk about gambling, and gambling includes spending money or doing anything that's kind of like RNG related, it becomes kind of under question on how much of this is a gateway into the real spending of real money and loss of real finances, and how it can psychologically make people more addicted and stuff like that. And Call of Duty was kind of at the forefront of all of it, because they're just so popular. They're just so widely accessible game, right? And I mean, they sold they were typically selling like 30 million copies. Holy, can I not get hit? They're like selling 30 million copies per year, right? I mean, they were like averaging, I don't know, at least 500,000 player base per year. Maybe not now, because of the recent issues with Black Ops 7. But I mean, Black Ops 7 is not like it's not like the end all be all of Call of Duty, right? Probably most likely not. Hopefully it is, because I'm tired of that franchise. But because of how widely popular they are, you can easily see why parents were more concerned about Call of Duty than they were of World of Warcraft or like Epic Quest or, I don't know, Destiny, right? Or something else. And so Call of Duty, when it got to like the year of 2019, they kind of just pulled the plug on the loot crates in order to be more appealing to adults, and so that we can get more sales and stuff like that. And, it makes sense, right? 2021 comes, Twitch bans, shadow bans slots and casinos, right? Because in 2021, it's like, well, what are you doing in 2021? For most people, what they were doing in 2021 was probably watching their favorite streamer, YouTuber, and a lot of big streamers at the time were known for doing slots and casinos, right, on stake.com, and yeah, online gambling. And so for Twitch's sake, so that they are not like associated as being like a gambling streaming platform, and that they're more appealing to advertisers and sponsors, which is a very important part of making money, is the advertisers and sponsors. They shadow banned the category, so you can still stream on Twitch slots and casinos. You just, the amount of people you're probably going to see watching you is significantly less, that's for sure. I will definitely tell you that. Yeah, they shadow banned it for specific reasons, so that they're not associated with it. And I mean, it worked for a while, until like kind of like the people who were big on it kind of, you know, were like, you know, what the fuck, because we're like already a 18 plus category, we're and for mature rated category, so it's not like, you know, your little Timmy does understand that he should be, you know, maybe not a 12-year-old kid watching XQC or Trainwreck TV for gambling. He probably should be watching, I don't know, like Shroud or something, or Asmongold, right? I don't know. It's a lot of different kind of monetization and censorship, so that they appeal to both adults and appease adults. Now, why do I bring up Twitch is because, well, Twitch has been recently caught for having their logo on a cryptocurrency gambling stream for CS. And so let's talk about, like, you know, why is that important? Well, first off, Twitch is like biggest anti-gambler, right? Streaming platform. On top of that, they also say that in order, if you wanted to stream and gamble on there, right, you cannot have direct links directly doing it. You cannot directly advocate for it, right? Which is why they, you know, ban everybody who does it as their stream, because it's like directly advocating for it. But a normal person in society will understand that it's not rocket science to put your logo onto something and then it being interpreted by the average person that you're supporting or advocating for it, right? There's no discrimination when it really comes to marketing. All kinds of marketing is marketing at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter how you market it. If it's on like TikTok, if it's on, you know, flyers, I don't know. Marketing's marketing. If you're marketing, you're advocating and you're supporting. That's the bottom line. That's, you know, if you're not advocating and not supporting it, don't market it. Bottom line, as I said. So I think Twitch was trying to, you know, use their policies to kind of get away with that. But if you look at the news outlets and look at all these people who talked about, especially Asmongold, you would understand that you have to be pretty much an imbecile to think in this kind of light that, oh well, me having my Twitch logo is not gonna be the same as me having direct marketing to it. It's like, no, it is. We all know you're advocating for gambling and gambling of not only real money but crypto money, right? For some sort of event. So yeah, Twitch trying to get away with it is, I mean, I guess it adds on to the Twitch drama a lot. But going back to the entertainment industry, well, Twitch is part of it, right? Twitch is part of the entertainment industry. Going on to talk more about the why in 2025 it's less serious is probably because of also, I would say, sports betting. I think because sports betting has become so much easier to increases weapon accuracy but increases recoil. The fuck? What the fuck? Because of the fact that sports betting has become so much easier to do with DraftKings, Prize Picks and all of this other stuff, right? It has pretty much like pulled a lot of people, especially young adults, into doing it. Especially when these places also add in like discounts, like your first off, blah blah blah, first time doing it, yada yada yada. You know how it goes, right? The way of trying to make first time users kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna become a first time user, right? Entice them in that type of way is highly part of the problem. And sponsors and advertisers also realize that, and it's hard not to like put your logo on like a UFC or an NFL or NBA or a football/soccer event that also has DraftKings there, and then you have like Red Bull, you know, or AT&T. It's like you can't afford not to have the exposure just because of the fact that you don't want to be there alongside with a gambling website that is also sponsoring the event and stuff like that. UFC also is a very big example, right? And because of that kind of mentality, I think they've also realized that a lot of adults don't really actually give a fuck too much about like gambling anymore, and the moral standards of, you know, being a gambler and not being a gambler, being a degenerate gambler and not being a degenerate gambler. They've kind of just sat there and just accepted it and just say, hey man, look, it is what it is, can't get rid of it, can't stop it, might as well just join the club. You know, everybody still knows us anyways, right? And that's kind of just how the cookie pretty much crumbled. And for the most part, it pretty much just crumbled because of the fact that it's like, what are you gonna do, right? You're not gonna stop someone from not gambling, right? Just because you're not advocating for it. That's not really how that works. You're 21 years old. You make your own life decisions as an adult. You could argue, yes, there's better life decisions. I think we all agree. But it's your own life decisions. That's why like the law is not going to criticize you for being a degenerate gambler, because at the end of the day, it's like you made that decision yourself. You wasn't like coerced into doing. If you weren't coerced into doing it, and you weren't like forced to do it, right? And this brings back like video games, Call of Duty, or like CS or gacha games, kind of forcing you to partake in the RNG in order to progress in the game is probably the real big issue. Is not necessarily it being there in general. Like gacha games quite literally make it that you have to play the gacha in order to become better, right? In the game, you have in order to progress further and do things a lot easier and grind easier, you have to partake in the gacha. Maybe that's where they come scrutinized, but now that people don't really care as much for these RNG, gacha games really don't really get as much flack as I think they used to. Really, I mean, if it was the case, I don't think Wuthering Waves and Zenless Zone Zero would still be all that popular. Now, you can... now, let me tell you. It is definitely very popular to understand that you get a 5-star waifu. I think that makes it very appealing, right? But, yeah, like... I don't think these companies really care as much. The entertainment industry kind of stopped caring as much. It's become widely accepted that everybody has partaken in the gambling in some kind of way, like Florida lottery, right? You know, it's like Florida lottery tickets or stuff like that, and everything you can keep on naming, and people trying to make everything seem like it's gambling. I mean, by legal definition, no, that's not necessarily true. But even it's hard to try to explain RNG in any capacity without it sounding like, oh, I'm gambling some kind of my like investment, time, resources, money, blah blah blah, right? Well, I guess resources kind of just covers the whole, you know, shebang, right? It's hard to try to explain that without it sounding like gambling. like you're doing some sort of like casino gambling. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. So the best that all these companies and all these, you know, adults and parents can do is pretty much tell like children and the youth and stuff like that, look, if you're going to get into it, understand that there's costs, there's benefits, right? And please truly understand that the cost of it can definitely outweigh the benefits, and that there are like, you know, it can definitely be detrimental to your psychological, it can definitely be detrimental to your to not only your psychological but to your like living lifestyle, right? You're, you know, maybe you won't have any money and stuff like that. So a lot of people say like, ooh, that's kind of so that's what everybody kind of has come down to the conclusion, is that all we can do is advocate that do any sort of activity you're going to do that requires you to be an adult at your own discretion. And that's pretty much the bottom line of it. Let me know what y'all think about gambling. I'll see y'all in the next morning. Darling.